How's it going, everyone, and welcome to No Fun Allowed. And today we are going to be making a character in Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. We, of course, are going to do what we do for all of the OSR systems. We're going to be rolling our stats, and we're going to be seeing where that applies, and we're going to be fleshing out our character sheet. And then in the episode after that, we'll be taking this character out for a spin. For creating a character in Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea, I'm going to go ahead and just use the acronym of ASH if I so feel like it, because it does shorten it down. We actually get a really cool thing here. The first thing a player must do to generate or roll up a character, use a character sheet available at hyperborea.tv. You can just click on that link if you've got the PDF. You can just look it up, of course. I'm going to have links down below. Pretty cool. The following 10 steps provide the guidelines, and we're going to go right on through. We can see here for making a character, we have attributes, class, race, physique, alignment, background, weapon skill, coinage and equipment, other statistics, and then finally spells. So let's see what our character is going to become. First things first, we have attributes. Generate your character's physical attributes, strength, dexterity, and constitution, and mental attributes, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Let's see how that works in this game. For generating our character's ability scores, we get a pretty generous list here of 5 different methods. 5 methods are recommended for generating ability scores. Consult your referee to determine which methods are available. Purists may allow method 1 alone, but method 3 is perhaps the most popular. Be sure to have a pencil and scrap paper ready when generating ability scores. So let's go over the list here. Method 1, roll 3d6 in order. So just roll 3d6. The first one is strength, the second one's dex, just rolling down the line. Method 2, roll 3d6 down the line, but you do that 3 times. So you're going to have 3 different characters, and then you just pick which one you like the most. Method 3 is the classic one of roll 4d6 and discard the lowest. You're going to have a much higher range on average. Method 4, roll 3d6 3 times for each attribute, and then select which one you like the most. And method 5, roll 2d6 plus 6 for each attribute. Very, very strong, that one. So we can see here, basically, as it goes on, the power scale gets better and better. For this series, I will be using the weakest one of all. I'm going to be rolling 3d6 down the line. So let's see what terrible character we come up with. And here it goes. We're going to be rolling down the line. First one being strength, second one being dex, etc., on that list there. We start off with a 9 strength. Okay, not terrible. A 16 dexterity. We can work with that. A 12 constitution. Not bad at all. A 15 intelligence. We're popping off right now. A 7 wisdom, hey, that's not bad at all. And a 14 charisma. My goodness, I am feeling lucky today. Plugging in my stats there, I'm pretty happy with that array. I can be a lot of things, I can do a lot of things. So long as I'm not touching wisdom, I can pretty much become anything. But let's take a look at what else you can do during character creation. We have attribute adjustment. An attribute can be raised by 1 point if another is reduced by 2. Such modifications may be made as many times as desired before producing a final set of attribute scores. An attribute cannot, however, be raised to 18. Only the luck of the dice should produce such an exceptional result. So, if you watched my old school essentials one, I was able to bring a character up to 18, but not in this game. No, if I rolled a 17, then hey, that's the luck of the draw. I've got a 17, no way to get an 18. You have to get very lucky. As a friendly reminder for what stats are doing for us, we can take a look at this list here. On a 9 through 12, we're getting a plus nothing most of the time. On a 13 to 14, we've got a different result. A 15 to 16, we got a different result. And we have a 17 and we have an 18. So looking back at my character, the 9 strength, if that goes any lower, then unfortunately that's going to hurt me. But at the same time, if it goes any higher, it's not going to do anything for me. That dexterity, though, is tempting. I could bring that up to a 17, and that could help out in a number of ways. My constitution is in the same boat. If I was able to raise that, that could help me out a bit. But at the same time, if I lowered it, it actually wouldn't hurt me. So that may be something that I potentially take a dip from. Intelligence, right there on the cusp, I could make it better. Wisdom, I could just theoretically dump that, but it would be absolutely terrible. And then charisma at the same time. I am actually really conflicted about what I'm going to do with this character, but for the instances of this, I'm probably going to raise that dexterity up to a 17 just because. And looking at it, I don't know what I'm going to drop. I'm probably just going to end up dropping some constitution. And with that, I think this is going to be a pretty solid character. I'm not willing to bump any more stats down because it is a gambling game. If you are increasing one stat by 1, then you're unfortunately making everything a little bit worse. I might want that charisma to go up just a little bit more, just a little bit, but at the same time, I think I'm just going to live with this. And actually, now I'm looking at it, seeing that charisma go from 14 to 15, it means that I get a +2 to my number of maximum henchmen. That right there, you know, just telling me I can have 6 henchmen and then now I can have 8 henchmen. I'm actually going to want that. I want 8 henchmen because I like having more homies, so I'm going to actually sacrifice something here. And honestly, looking on it, I can see that I have a 10 constitution, and if it goes down to 8, then nothing terrible happens. My trauma survival does go down a bit, and my extraordinary feat of constitution goes down a little bit. But to be fair, the extraordinary feat of constitution is so incredibly low anyway, it probably doesn't matter. And my trauma survival, hey, that's not going to matter because I'm going to have a lot of friends by my side. And that's it, I'm calling it there. No more stats going down. I've already sacrificed a lot of stats, but it did get me something big here. That 17 in dexterity bumps me up to as high as I can possibly get by bumping it. And that 15 charisma, that goes a long way. I've got a lot more friends by my side. Now with our attributes in line, next step, number 2, class. Review available classes and subclasses, then select one. Note and record all class abilities. With my stats, I can actually be a number of things, but I'm probably going to lean in toward the charisma or the dex. So let's take a look and shop around to see what class is going to be right for me. After looking around a bit, I realized that my wisdom being that low did lock me away from a lot of classes. But hey, I'm okay with that because I think I've found what's going to be right for our character. The Ledger Menace, a subclass of the Thief. I only need a 12 dexterity and a 12 intelligence, which I have. I would need a 12 wisdom for a fire thief or an ice thief, but I am not going to be any of those. So with that being said, looking over what I'm offered here, I'm pretty sure that this is what our character is going to be. We're going to be a Ledger Menaced, and we're going to be taking spells that of the typical magician. We're not going to be specializing too hard, and we're going to be doing our typical thief things with a little bit of magic on the side. Pretty cool. Now that I've copied over the classes abilities to my character sheet, we can move on to the next phase of creating our character. For the third step of character creation, we are going to determine what our race is, review available races, and then select one. Much like everything I do in this series, I'm always just going to roll for it. In the lands of Hyperborea, we are given all of these results on this 2d12 table. In fact, I actually just saw that on the Kickstarter that is up now, or at least that's the time of this recording, they are actually going to add even more races, so that'll be cool. But for this case, I'm just going to roll what's on here. So I'm going to roll 2d12 to see what we are. And here we are in 11. What is in 11? We are a Chimerian. Cool stuff. Here in the section beyond, we get a bit of a backstory on what the races typically are and look like. But hey, you know, there's a lot of variants that can go on with that, and you don't have to stick to the traditional. Step number 4, physique. Determine gender, age, height, weight, and appearance. Alrighty, let's go through that fun process. Starting off with age, as a friendly reminder in this game, age is a big deal because as you advance in age, you do get a little bit better, but then once you get too old, then your stats actually decrease in the physical attributes, but they actually increase in the mental ones. So if you are using mental only, then hey, that's good for you. But if you are one of those frontline fighters, that's going to suck later on. We can see here that a player character's starting age is a 1d4 plus 15. Not much variance. You are going to be in that range of 16 to 19. And we can see there that once you become an adult, that is when you get that stat increase. So our illustrious young adventurer is a whopping 16. They are a teenager looking out to explore in this brand crazy new world. Next up, we have height and weight. Once again, height and weight is determined by your race. We are Chimerians, so let's see how that affects us when we roll for our height and weight here. We are Chimerian, and thus, Chimerians roll 46 for height determination and drop the lowest die result. We are going to be, on average, a little bit bigger, so let's see how big we are. We get ourselves a... Ooh, that's actually not that great. We only dropped the 2, so we're only 10? That's actually, like, that's lame. Let's take a look at what 10 gives us. A 10 puts us right there, smack dab in the middle. We are 5'9 plus 1d3. So we are either going to be anywhere between 5'10, 5'11, or 6 feet tall. We are only 5'10. But hey, you know, that's pretty typical. That's average. Nothing wrong with that. After giving your character some flair with their appearance, then we move on to step number 5, alignment. Select character's alignment or ethos. Before selecting an alignment, refer to your class or subclass. entry to see which alignments are allowed. Because in this game, some classes you have to be a certain sort of alignment, or you cannot be a certain sort of alignment. So let's take a look at what we are stuck with for Ledger Menace. For Ledger Menace, we can see here that alignment, we can be any save lawful good. And if we were a fire thief, we could only be any save lawful. If we were an ice thief, we could be lawful evil or neutral. But we are just the typical ones, so we can be any, yet we cannot be lawful good. On the cosmology of what we can be, we have lawful good, chaotic good, neutral, lawful evil, and chaotic evil. So I'm just going to leave this up to chance. It's going to be 1d4, 1 being chaotic good, 2 neutral, 3 lawful evil, 4 chaotic evil. And we are... Hey, we're actually chaotic good. We're the Robin Hoods. Step number 6, background. Determine character's name, personality, languages, religion, and secondary skills. Alrighty, so our character's name. I think we're going to give Cargalus the Sneak a run to see if he has what it takes to be an intrepid adventurer. When it comes to languages known, you typically have common unless you are really not intelligent. But we are fortunately intelligent enough with a 14 intelligence, so we're going to start off with common plus 1 additional language. I'm going to say for that we are going to know Hellenic Amazon dialect. As for religion, we get a nice huge list of a whole bunch of different religions here, and it says what they are the typical followers of and what they are like and all that fun stuff. Our guy isn't the most devout religious person, but you know, he's going to follow somebody. So for this, I'm going to pick Rel, God of Thieves, because hey, you know, sometimes you gotta pray to someone when you're trying to pull off an awesome heist. For our secondary skill, for the person that we were before we became an awesome adventurer, we get this awesome list here. You simply roll d6 to determine what table you're in, and then you roll d20 to see which one you truly are. And what are we today? We are a 1 on the d6 and an 8 on the d20, and that's going to give us... We were a shipwright, apparently. We were a pretty young shipwright. We may have grown up in the docks somewhere, and that's all we knew is the ships, and we want to go out there and finally explore around the world. Looking back at our character sheet, we can see that we're fleshing this thing out more and more as we go on, but of course there's still a lot more to go. Number 7 for creating characters, weapon skill. Review weapon skill rules, including favored weapons listed at your character's class or subclass entry. For fighters and fighter subclasses, which we are not, select mastered weapons. However, if you like to do the quick start weapons, you probably want to pick something from one of those starting weapons. So we can see in the weapon skill list here, if you are a fighter, then you can just pick up anything and you're pretty decent with it. But if you are not a fighting type, then of course you're going to suck with it. We are going to suck the least though. We are a thief, we are specifically a ledger menace, and we're only going to get a -2 to an attack penalty if we pick up something that we're not proficient with. We're not going to be dumb enough to do that though. We're always going to be attacking with something that we know how to use. As the ledger menace, we actually get a pretty decent list here. We get axe, bow, club, crossbow, dagger, dart, flail, garrote, hammer, mace, pick, sling, sword. You know, we actually get a really good list there, so we're going to be able to pick up whatever we really want and actually use it pretty well. Number 8 for character creation, coinage and equipment. Roll for initial funds, purchase armor, weapons, and gear. Note that armor directly impacts armor class and movement. So that's going to affect us in particular because we are thieves and we get an agile perk. If we are unarmored, then we get a +1 to our AC. Pretty cool. So let's take a look at what we're going to be dealing with for equipment. When you create your character, you've got 2 options. Either 1, roll for gold, or 2, pick up one of the starting class equipment list. We're going to take a look at the class equipment list here, but we are personally going to roll just to see how screwed we really are. So here we have the quick start equipage packets, and these things are actually pretty decent. You get your bang for your buck here. You get a lot of things going for it, and some things you may not even considered. Let's take a look at what we get from the Ledger Menace. Leather armor, silver dagger, falcata, backpack, bandages, blanket, ink, quill, soft leather pouch, small sack, thieves tools, tinderbox, torches 2, wineskin full, iron rations, spellbook. Pretty awesome. But let's see if we can actually do better than that. We are going to roll for our gold, and we are going to roll 3d6 times 10, giving us a range of 30 to 180. May the dice gods be ever in our favor. And we earn ourselves 140 gold. Hey, and we're actually going to be able to do quite a lot with that. So I've bought what I've deemed necessary. I've got some of the casual accoutrement, and I've listed a whole bunch of the weapons and stuff. I'm not going too crazy because, hey, I'm the thief. I don't want to be a frontline fighter. I'll happily backstab people, but I'm not going to be out there getting all crazy. But something to note is because of my high dexterity, I've got a pretty decent AC, and with holding a shield in my hand, I'm coming down to a 4, which is pretty solid. For step number 9, other statistics. Review the definitions of AC, casting ability, fighting ability, hit dice, hit points, movement, saving throw, and turning ability. Some of those we don't care about, but just make sure that you know that if you're wearing an AC and you are going to be affected by your dexterity, which I've already noted. We have our casting ability, which of course is going to pertain to us because we actually do have a spell to cast. We've got our fighting ability that determines how we can hit armor class 0. We have our hit dice, which we will be rolling a d6. We've also got our movement, which is determined by the armor that we wear. For us, that is going to be 40 because we're wearing light armor. We have saving throws. Typically, everyone has to roll a 16 in order to beat whatever that they are subject to, but we get a +2 to several things. And lastly, we get turning ability, which, hey, that actually does not matter for us. As always with these OSR games, here comes the dreaded event, rolling for your HP. As the Ledger Menace, we get a d6 of HP, and this is going to be plus or minus your Constitution. We give a plus nothing to it, so here goes. We have 3 HP. Hey, guess what? We can maybe take a hit. That's pretty dope. Another big aspect for our character is the fact that they have the ability to cast spells, so we're going to take a spell from the Magician spell list. We get this humongous list here, 33 in total for just the level 1, if my mouse could work. So normally you would select one because that would be the smart thing to do. But we're not the smart people around here apparently. We're going to just roll for it. We're going to roll a D33. Huzzah! I rolled a 12 and a 12 is going to get us the spell Grease. Actually that's pretty good for a thief in all honesty. I can use that for a lot of sticky situations. And you know the Grease spell is pretty decent. I'm going to affect an area by 2 by 2 feet per caster level. So immediately it's a very small area, but as I get better, it gets better over time. And anyone that has to try and make their way through there has to make an avoidance save or fall over. Pretty good. Now that we have everything documented in all of our statistics, and we finally have our spells there at level 10, we are good to go. So of course this video is long, but that's because I was explaining a lot of things. I promise you when you go to roll up a character, it's going to do itself, right? You roll up your stats and that's immediately going to determine what kind of classes you can become. And hey, once you know what class you are, you don't even technically need to write down your character sheet. You could just simply have the book open or the PDF open at all times, right? It really comes down to having the charts prepared, because I promise you, when you go to roll those attacks, instead of sitting there doing the mental calculations, just having a big old chart there that says, I can hit this if I roll that, perfectly fine. For my class in particular, I know some things that I would always have prepared would be the thief abilities, because I've got the thief abilities, and as well as I'd have that spell Grease always just right there ready, and whatever else I could potentially use. As stated before, in this game, you're less likely to be killed outright, because when you drop to 0 HP, you're alive. It's only when you hit -10 is when you die, and only once you reach -4 once you start actually bleeding out. So you are expected to survive just a little bit more, so hopefully you're not rolling up characters nearly as often. But hey, the lands of Hyperborea are incredibly dangerous, and there is always the chance that you can die, and maybe we'll discover what happens during that grisly affair, because in the next episode we are going to be taking our character out for a spin out into the treacherous lands of Hyperborea. In that video, we'll be going over combat in the lands of Hyperborea, as well as a bit of travel and the dungeon clearing process. So now that you know how to make a character, are you excited to see what's up? Because I promise you, every time you roll up a character, you're going to get a different character, right? There is just so many different class options. There's a lot of different little minute details you can switch up. You can change your stats out a bit. There's a bunch of spells. There's a bunch of spells. So I promise you, every time you play this game, it's going to be a little bit different. That's the unique part. Go ahead and tell me what you think of the character creation of Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea, because I would love to hear it. But that's going to do it for me for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you to my amazing patrons. You guys are absolutely incredible. Thank you so very much. And I cannot wait to see you all in the next one.